Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, criminal court, and other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. The books are on audio as I have a return guest. I'm happy. Oh my God, Julie Holburn on, and she was last on season 6, episode 319, and she was way back on February 6, 2023. And we're going to talk about this records request under Court Rule 10.5 of the Superior Court of California of the County of Orange, where they're saying the estimated cost to produce documents you requested is, get this, people, sit down, $132,899.07, which includes the cost of search, review, duplication, and delivery. I mean, it's
Yeah,
right here. It's right here, people.
yeah. It's
What do
also
you
in my
do with
article.
that?
I know it's insane. I just wrote an article on it. It's titled Orange County Superior Court Demands $132,889 for records the Judicial Council already publishes. And the Judicial Council is the governing body over all the superior courts in California. But yeah, they're not allowed to charge for those things, first of all.
Mm.
I was recognized by the court over a year ago when I was covering a series of hearings in the Tawny Mina Grossman case. And as an effort, I believe, to deter me from attending future or current hearings back then on Tawny's case, the Orange County District Attorney's office, Tammy Jacobs, served me with a subpoena on July 9th. And then subsequently, the First Amendment Coalition heard about that and immediately came to my aid, along with the ever prestigious Jassy Vick Carlin, which is a huge entertainment law firm out of LA. And I was recognized as a journalist. They wrote a 70-page motion to quash the subpoena, and Tammy Jacobs withdrew it. But subsequently, every records request that I have made, the Orange County Superior Court has either significantly delayed in providing, denied they had records, or wanted to charge me thousands of dollars. Before this $132,000 quote back in April, when I requested, I've requested so many different documents on the court appointed people because it involves public money. And they've
Mhm.
just not provided that information. And so when I kept pushing back with the public information officer, Costas, he came back in April and said that they wanted $4,200 for one Excel spreadsheet, which was an administrative record, and you're not supposed to charge. $4,200 for one Excel spreadsheet. Yeah, and then came the 132,000 because it has to do with Miners Counsel and Gal Brian Barron, and he has between 12 and 28 million in annual contracts to represent minors in Orange County. And
Mm.
yeah, and there's a lot of controversy about his representation and not properly representing to the court the child's voice and the best interest of the child. I want to get my hands on those contracts.
Hmm.
And, obviously the court clearly does not want to provide them when they give you a quote of $132,000 to produce, let's say 15 contracts.
Well, the taxpayer needs to know about this too.
Yes. Yeah. Trying to get it out there. Wrote an article. There's some social media. There has been a lot of protests happening in Orange County since July, a
Mm.
combination of probate court, juvenile court, and family court, and then primarily family court and probate court. Posters with names of judges, minors councils, therapists, evaluators, lawyers, and people have had enough in Orange County. It's been going on for decades. The corruption.
Mhm. Well, you've got all these third-party parasites, these minor counsels, these therapists, and the courts are using their own therapists. Some courts don't, but a lot of them do because they're all connected.
Yes, they all hang out together. They go out. They go to their parties together. They give each other business. They try to get on each other's cases.
Right, right. And Christmas is coming up, so you know they're going to do Christmas parties.
Oh, yes, yes, definitely. Well, in Orange County, there's an organization here called California Family Law Naked Truth, and they have started a recall process for about six different judges in family court and probate court. So they are hoping to deliver the notice of intent to the judges before Christmas, since so
Oh,
many families have been separated from their children and or harmed by the family court.
right, right. I noticed that the courts always sent me documents either on, around, or, holidays, birthdays, anniversaries. It's like they knew when to send them out. It was weird.
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
I just think besides separating, kids from their parents, they also like to inflict it's just psychological abuze on parents too.
Oh, yes. So we all know, if you've seen my first interview with you back in 2023, and then again a couple months ago, I have a past involvement with family court myself, and
Mhm.
it's still an ongoing case, and it's literally unbelievable. It was unbelievable to me when it started happening, and that is what led me to become an investigative reporter. And in doing that, um, I've covered many, many cases, the Tawny Mina Grossman case, the series on Jessica Sinclair, who was the therapist who was lying about her PhD credentials for like 11 years or something, placing children in harm's way. Um, there's been the Taran Nolan case, which is about the quadriplegic mom. She was super mom before a catastrophic accident.
Oh,
Then she became a quadriplegic, lost her youngest baby in the car accident. They couldn't get the baby out before it engulfed in flames.
oh
And
no.
she suffered medical neglect by her husband. I mean, she couldn't do anything. She couldn't feed herself. She couldn't move. And after a couple of years of that, she separated, and the family court used it against her and said that she was unstable and she was a drug addict. And, you know, I mean, the woman suffered a catastrophic car accident, became a quadriplegic, had
Mm,
traumatic brain injury. And along with that comes a lot of changes in your body.
hmm
You know, you have seizures, you can't talk, you don't have movement of your arms. And if you do, they're, or legs or anything, it's, jerky at best. You have to go to intensive therapy. They told her she would never walk again. But the court used it against her and said she was a drug addict and she was emotionally unstable, and also a part of all of her injuries from the car accident. They're now thinking she might have some form of Tourette's that kind of came with the TBI.
mm.
And instead of keeping the family who already suffered unfathomable tragedy and heartache, they used it to rip this family apart and cause so much damage to these children and separate them from their mother, instead of reunify and
Mhm.
support and help get therapy for everybody in the family to understand what this woman was going through. And now this poor woman, not only has she suffered all that, she's been separated from her three living children for, it'll be a total of 8 years, because the judge in the case deemed her the aggressor in a DVRO, which is insane. And
Yeah.
sorry,
No, that doesn't
I'm very
make sense.
passionate about these
Oh,
cases.
yes, I agree because what these judges do in her case and even in I think everybody's case is that they're teaching these kids not to be empathetic. So they can't see their mother who's been in this horrible car accident. Now she's a quadriplegic. They're not learning to, you know, help care for her, maybe, or
Or understand the disease,
understand.
or it's just bizarre that they haven't come around this family and helped support this family with this horrific accident that was not her fault.
Right.
And instead, they've ripped this family for, I don't even know how it would be possible to cause more destruction in a family than that, but they did it. And so those are some of the cases. And absolutely, the
hmm
minute that um, a protective parent reports abuse, or a child speaks about abuse, they immediately come into that case. They say the reporting parent or child is either a parental alienator, or lying, or has false memories, or is mentally unstable. And
Mhm.
family court should be called the destruction of family court,
Oh,
not
yeah.
so
Yeah, I
it's
agree.
yeah,
That's all they do. I never hear anything good come out of it. In fact, I was going through one of my OCY hearings, and the caseworker was saying, and I have it in transcript, that the mother, who is me, said that nothing good comes out of a courtroom, and therefore I didn't want my children around a courtroom. And I just, not that I laughed, but it's true. There's nothing good. It's like I said, can I have a show of hands of anyone that had anything actually good come out of family court? I have yet to.
yeah, yeah. And I think we were talking about that off camera before, that it's commonly referred to as kangaroo court or the, court circus. And people just use that as an excuse. Oh, well, it's kangaroo court. They don't follow the laws. And they just brush it aside like, oh, it's too big of a beast to tackle. But the problem is, it is destroying America. It's destroying America's family, America's children, and it needs to be stopped.
Mhm.
Um, and you just can't discount it by giving it that title and not do something about it. People across the nation are fed up with it. We know about the Arizona ad hoc committee hearings. We know
Mhm.
about I think it was the Idaho Domestic Violence Task Force or Domestic Relations Task Force that took place following Arizona. And then Dr. Bandy Lee had her national conference at the National Press Club December 11th, I think.
I
Oh
think it
no,
was around there.
November 11th, sorry.
November. Okay.
So there's definitely people are done. They're done being patient.
Hmm.
They're done with legislators not addressing this and saying, oh, you have to go to the presiding judge. The presiding judges aren't doing anything. They're not
Mm-mm.
controlling and keeping their judges and lawyers in check. No one's disciplining the judges. Here in California, the governing body is the Judicial Council of California. They are not cracking down on the courts. The other governing body is the Commission on Judicial Performance. They are voting on what, you know, 5% of thousands of complaints to investigate. And then of that tiny little percentage that they vote to investigate, they're only, censuring at best
Oh,
judges. And instead, primarily, presiding judges in the counties are just moving the judges who get a certain number of complaints around to another department. So they'll go from, family court to civil traffic or criminal court,
mm,
or they'll go to probate court. They're not actually, making a public statement of, their wrongdoing. They're not removing them from the bench. And
mm-mm,
and they know it. And then the California bar had the big scandal with the Tom Girardi situation where he had bribed staffers at the Cal Bar to the tune of around $1 million. They're not investigating attorneys, and the attorneys openly say it, even taunt their own clients, say, fine, file a complaint with the state bar. They're not going to do anything, and they know it.
mhm.
So it's just this insanely out of control beast that, somebody other than the people going to the streets needs to stop this,
Mhm.
especially in California. But again, this is rampant across the nation.
Right.
Um, so it's really disturbing that no one seems to want to do anything. And recently, here in Orange County, an advocacy group, California Family Law Naked Truth, has had several protests. There's been news media coverage of it, and they've made public statements calling on the FBI and the DOJ to investigate Orange County Family Court and Probate Court.
Hmm.
They've gone and spoken before the Board of Supervisors, which manages the entire county, calling on them to make a public statement. They've basically refused to do anything, of which it's important to note that every single one of the Board of Supervisors is a lawyer themselves. And
Yes.
and they just say, oh, we'll take it up with the presiding judge. But then we go back to the presiding judge of the county and they're not doing anything. They have the ability when they get complaints from parties in a case, whatever type of case it is, criminal, civil, family court, whatever, the presiding judges over all the judges in the
Mhm.
county, they have the ability to forward the complaint up to the Commission on Judicial Performance. And when that is done, it's more likely that something will be done when the presiding judge sends it up there. But the presiding judge isn't doing that. They're not doing anything. They're just doing the canned response, copy and paste response, and the
Mhm.
complaints go nowhere. And everybody who's putting complaints hears the same thing. Oh, well, we've not had this complaint before on this judge or this minors counselor or this therapist, and we'll do an investigation and I'll get back to you in 90 days. And then it's the same copy and paste reply. Oh, they did nothing wrong, you know? And so it's just this vicious, ineffective joke of a circle,
Yes.
uh, where nobody is doing anything to hold anybody accountable. And
No.
every day, more and more
Mm-mm.
parents and children are being harmed.
Definitely. And when I think what people don't realize is when they file a complaint on a judge, only, what is it, 1% that actually gets investigated.
Yes. And
And
they
that's
vote
really
on
bad.
who to investigate.
Yeah. So what chance does anyone have of getting anybody reported?
Yeah.
Eh, I just don't know. I do a lot of court watching and I do make out reports on these judges. And you just, I encourage people to fill out complaints if they're court watching. They've got to fill out complaints if they see a pro se getting mistreated.
Oh, that's a great idea. I don't think I've heard anybody talk about that. I think it's mostly here in California, Southern California, that I'm aware of, that only parties to a case are making complaints against the judge. But if we do have quite a big movement now with a lot of court watchers. So if they would get more complaints if it was coming from court watchers as well
Right.
as the litigants. That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Oh yeah. I know it's a pain in the rear end. I tell people because I had a complaint here. Well, anyway, I was filling it out, but it's you have to print off the paperwork and get the all the numbers right and all this docket number. You know how it is when you make a complaint on these attorneys or judges. And I've also complained on attorneys as well. So we have to. It's our civic duty to report these people for wrongdoing and treating a pro se, which means is a parent that's defending themselves without an attorney to help protect
Yes.
that parent.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yeah, the people need to take control of this and get real loud about it, because it's just really grotesque what's happening, the level of the corruption that's
mhm.
happening and the harm. Um, I was going to say, uh, lately, people have been asking, like, well, how do we get these judges out if nobody in oversight is doing anything? And that's where somebody did some research within this California Family Law Organization and decided to do a recall. And then other people have asked in the public, well, how do you fix the problem? And specific to Orange County with the judges, the Voice of OC is a local independent paper who did an article a year or two ago. I could send it to you after this, talking about who is Orange County judges. And it discussed the fact that, 99% of the judges, the people who run for judge seats, are former deputy district attorneys of Orange County District Attorney's Office. And there is an unspoken rule that you don't run for a judge seat unless you're an Orange County district attorney, former deputy district attorney. So you have these deputy district attorneys who don't prosecute child abuse, um, domestic violence, elder abuse, because that takes a lot of time and money. And
Mhm.
then those are the same people who are going and running unopposed in Orange County, unopposed. They
Right,
cancel the
right.
primaries and they just become the judges because nobody runs against them. And these are the same ones walking into family court, and they're not properly handling the cases before them. They already have, a chip on their shoulder and a perspective to not prosecute, to not believe. And they're making these orders that are horrific.
Mm.
And it's in violation of Family Code 3044. It's in direct violation of Peaky's Law, which was just became effective a year and a half ago. And so I think people are hoping that the recall will send a message that it's time to shape up in California, and maybe that will have a ripple effect across the country.
Right.
Hopefully.
And yeah, I had someone else on that said, the FBI should go in and just clean house with these judges. They're all connected. They're connected to the DA, or they worked like you said, they've worked in the DA and now they're a judge. Isn't that helpful? And then that if you have an attorney that leaves the DA's office, then they might hang their shingle if they can't get into a big law firm. But then they all work together once they have a case that they can screw up on
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah, exactly. And specific to the cases I've been covering, and then still having my own family law case, I purposefully didn't file into my own case for a long time until I was waiting for the really bad judge, James Waltz, to actually retire before I filed a new action.
Mm,
And when he officially did, I filed into my case. And mind you, and that was just this last February, I had been covering family court, since 2022, sharing a
mhm,
byline, 2023, and then on my own for quite a while, long time. And then covering the Taran Nolan case. I think I've done 6 or 7 articles on Taran Nolan's case,
mm.
and very critical of the judge who ordered a DBRO against her, finding her to be the aggressor. Um, I mean, it's
Like,
appalling. It's
yeah.
appalling. So when I filed a new action into my case, they assigned me that same judge. And I thought, oh, well, because I knew in January that my articles had become a evidence in the case and part of the hearing and part of the trial. I thought as soon as she saw my name, once we knew she was assigned, Kimberly Carasso was assigned to my case, she'd recuse herself because my name and my articles was such a big contention, a point of contention in Tara's case. I thought she'd do the right thing. And when she didn't, we filed a motion to disqualify her. And she came back with her verified answer under penalty of perjury and said, oh, I don't know who she is. I don't know her work, which was a lie.
Mhm.
And subsequently, months later, opposing counsel filed some transcripts and other documents not under seal. And this is a public case.
Mhm.
And Kimberly Carasso sealed the case after the fact to prevent me from getting a hold of some of these documents. And then months later, opposing counsel filed something not under seal because these are, again, very public figures. This is the lady who had the catastrophic car accident. They were public figures before because of what her husband did in Newport Beach. He was a former football coach. Then
Mhm.
the accident made a lot of news.
Mhm.
Then there was just everything online, on Facebook, on Reddit, everywhere, just this social smear campaign. There was just so much.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, yeah, it was very odd when the judge made the move to seal those January hearings. And again, recently, the opposing counsel filed something not under seal. I got a hold of the documents. I refiled to disqualify the judge because I had written proof, what I
Mhm.
already knew, but written proof. And she denied to recuse herself again.
Oh, yeah. This is a common problem. They just are that, lack of a better word, arrogant comes to mind.
Well, I mean, they're emboldened. They know that the Commission on Judicial Performance doesn't really do anything to hold the judges accountable. CalBar isn't really doing anything of any significance to send a message. Don't, violate your duties to your client. Don't break the law. No one's sending the message to the judges. Don't violate the canons. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, it just is very destructive. I don't know why the FBI isn't doing what they should be doing because I thought Cash Patel wanted them out of the offices and doing
yeah,
something.
yeah. I mean, maybe they are. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
Um,
they are and we don't know it. I hope.
Yeah, I don't know what the other answer is. you know.
No.
Um, so I guess recall. People need to, stand together and make some real change by finding out what their recall process is in their county and state. And
Hmm.
because I guess no one just really cares, or in office, it
Hmm.
appears.
Hmm.
But
Right. Yeah, I just nobody cares. They don't care about these families. They don't care about these kids. It's just very discouraging. I'd like to say something uplifting today, but
well,
you did.
I do think there is a movement. I do think there is possibility for real change. Um, I sent you the article, what's going on in Louisiana. There's
Yeah.
discussion there of overhauling and revamping CPS.
Yeah, I thought that
So
was great.
yeah, I think there's definitely movement, and
Yes, here it is.
yeah, yeah. So hopefully that, with the two states hearings and Bandy's conference and you and me and the other people reporting on it, maybe there's been enough pressure for somebody to really take notice
Right.
and make a major change.
Right, because of this thing, when we had talked earlier, lawmakers fear DCFS reorganization could cost Louisiana experienced child welfare workers. And they aren't experienced. And if they are, they're experienced at taking away kids from even good families.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny, or not funny. CPS is deemed like this holy grail credible agency in the family courts, but they are not. They are not credible. The
No.
family court can't continue to rely on their findings because there's so much that's been published. They fail every day, and not just a little bit. They
Hmm.
fail in great ways. Numerous children are being harmed, put in foster care, taken away, and put in the arms of abusers.
Hmm.
And so this is a positive sign to see this headline. It's doable.
Hmm.
You just need to put a stop to what's happening in the family court, the juvenile court, and CPS. And you know, the family court can't just go back and say, "Oh well, CPS is the end all be all. If they found this, then that's everything," and it's not. They're
Hmm.
just not a credible agency anymore.
Oh, no, no. In fact, when I was going through this transcript of mine, there were so many holes to this caseworker's story. It was it was laughable.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny
I
that you use that word. I I don't,
And then the
sorry.
judge listens to the caseworker and then just bases his decision off of what she's saying without looking at any evidence or really doing a thorough investigation themselves because obviously, here I'll show you this. Okay, so oh, which one is this one? Okay, hang on. Oh, no, not this one. Look how thick this transcript that cost me $625.50. Well, there's just so much. I had a good judge, though. I actually had a good judge in this one that cleared me. But I was just going through that, and it's crazy that they'll do one-sided interviews, and then the parent is like,
Yeah, I think you touched on a really big point there. They're not doing their job.
right.
They're supposed to hold hearings where people bring forth testimony and witnesses and lay foundation and get evidence submitted into evidence.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Right, right.
And instead of that happening, I have seen time and again where judges block evidence being brought in, and it's unbalanced and biased the way in which they're letting some evidence in and other evidence not in. And a lot
Hmm.
of times it's very credible, like unbelievably credible documentation evidence, and they'll block it because I think they do it on purpose so that it's not on the record. So because it contradicts what they've already predetermined is going to happen. And they're relying on court appointees like these therapists and evaluators and minors counsel, just like they are CPS, and just going by what their recommendations are without looking at the evidence themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
these other people that the judges are relying on, and they're not doing a good job, and in some cases, they're committing fraud and perjury, and the judges are relying on this,
Mm-hmm.
and it's having drastically negative outcomes and impacts on children and family.
And
Uh,
they need a serious overhaul. Uh-huh.
yeah, and
And,
here in that same article, I know we're kind of jumping around, but in Louisiana, it says here, it says Jackson Andrews said that having no one among the department's top 6 leadership positions with a background in child welfare is alarming, given the agency's primary mission. That's what we do at DCFS. That's the main thing, protecting children, Jackson Andrews said.
Mhm.
So this is in regards to that article. You can't see it because my
Oh yeah, I've
you
got it
just
right up here because it it goes on. It says, okay, that's what we do at DCFS. That's the main thing, protecting children, Jackson Andrews said. Lawmakers have long scrutinized the department over instances when repeated abuze apparently went unchecked. Through September, uh, through September, 39 children in Louisiana passed this year as a result of suspected abuze or neglect. Of those DEATHS, 25 were at households the agency had previously investigated. Oh, they're doing a
yeah.
great job there.
Yeah, I mean, and that is not an outlier. That is consistently across the board with CPS or DCFS, whatever you want to call it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's not child protective services, it's child DEATH services.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yes, it
it's
is.
that bad.
So I really think they should just fall to the wayside and
Yes,
let the police,
completely.
yeah, and educate the police and get them going on false accusations and or someone calls in something, it will probably get investigated by the police. If Johnny's getting beat up down the block, well then that's assault and battery and the police should be handling it and doing their jobs.
Yes, that's the other thing that's a component in this is Dr. Joan Meyer had an event. I think it was up in Santa Clara or Santa Clarita at the Child Abuse Prevention Council. I attended it. And they talked about the council panel members, the chair, I forget his name at the moment, but he used to be a prosecutor, and it was known that it was another unspoken rule. If there was a concurrent family law case, the police department and the DAs refused to investigate or prosecute. And so that's a huge problem. And that is where we need to change things as well. It should be, no more. Like if there's a concurrent family law case, that is not a reason to sidestep doing your job as a cop, an investigator, a detective, and a prosecutor. You need to investigate those cases and either clear them or prosecute. And no more of this, leaving it to the family court where, I mean, it's absurd the level of corruption and fraud in the family court covering up the abuse. So that is maybe, really a first line defense there is for police officers to ignore that unspoken rule and investigate, do the job, take the time.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't know what to say. They have got to dismantle these alphabet soup groups immediately, if not sooner. That would be my one big thing because not only are they screwing up these kids and then they go into family court and parade around a bunch of false testimony
Yeah. Oh,
and the
and
judges go with it.
yeah, they just rely on these experts who aren't really experts or who are, purposefully, making fraudulent, incorrect recommendations.
Right.
Recently, it was uncovered that this minors counsel and guardian ad litem, Brian Barron, was allowing court staff, or excuse me, his law firm staff, paralegals and other people to interview minors.
Uh-oh.
And instead of him himself, I mean, he's the one that was appointed, not his staff. And if that's happening in somebody who has the largest contracts and represents so many minors,
Oh,
you know that it's not just him doing that.
right.
Most likely, I mean, you know, that's really disturbing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they still continue to carry on with this behavior. I don't know. I don't know. It's
And
just so disgusting.
it is. And we don't need any more legislation per se. I mean, maybe a few things here and there,
Hmm.
but we have legislation in place, at
Yeah,
least here
enforce it.
in California, and it's not being enforced.
Hmm.
Peaky's law is not being enforced. 3044 is not being enforced. You know, the penal code. And when parents do withhold, uh, they're not enforcing protecting the parents who are trying to protect the children. I think it's 2787. There's a provision in the penal code that says you can withhold your child if there's immediate harm, like physical, psychological harm. And they're using that, they're ignoring that
Hmm.
and attacking the parents who are trying to protect their children. So they're picking and choosing what and when to enforce legislation and law, and it's always to the benefit of the abuser
Hmm.
and not the child, not the victims.
No, no. And I think another major problem that also ties in with this is that Title 4D funding.
Yes.
That is, I think, a major player in all
Yeah.
of this because when it comes to money, that the non-custodial parent who's losing has to pay out this money and they don't get to see the kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it causes a lot of permanent damage, if you know what I mean.
Yes. Yes. And that
Because
is,
they're,
yeah. And we're seeing that a really high concentration of that in Orange County, actually, and LA, where moms or dads who are the protective parent have a child support order to get child support. It's never enforced. But then when the case rises to the level where the protective parent is pushing back, you know, trying to protect the child or trying to get protection for themselves because of domestic violence or child abuse, that's when they come in and do the claim of parental alienation. They're mentally unstable. They're
say that
using
was me.
undue influence. What the kid is saying isn't true because it's their false memories implanted by the, you know, unbalanced parental alienator who is really the protective parent and telling the truth. And then they flip custody and then they put in a new child support order and they start threatening the protective reporting parent with sanctions, court time, jail time.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's, I mean, sitting here, how else can you not shake your head in disbelief, right? I mean, it's
Right.
just,
No, the taxpayer needs to know about this Title 4. Well, there's B, D, and E.
yes.
You know,
I
B.
have a like a light education on that. I spoke with Rachel Bruno and a few other people on it, so I have a much better understanding of the three,
Mhm,
and that Title D 4D
mhm.
has significantly more money thrown at it than the other
Yeah.
one, which is either B or E, which is the preventative one. There's one that's I may be misspoken
Okay.
here.
Well, B is for CPS and E is for
Okay.
foster care.
Okay.
So D is thanks to Bill Clinton signing in ASFA in 1997, the child support enforcement. Oh
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, they never did it when my ex-husband, his
no.
amount grew to $100,000, still owes it. What did they set their arrears amount at? $5 a month.
Mm,
And he
mm,
still never paid it for years. Anyway, but I
yeah.
mean, that happens to so many parents.
Right.
But
Right.
it was my understanding that either B or E, one of them was preventative, and maybe that was the CPS one. And
Probably.
if they were,
Probably.
because it was more proactive to um, separate and buffer the victims from the abuser,
Mm-hmm.
was my generalized understanding of that. And but it had such a lower amount of funding versus D. Um, anyway, I'm working on getting more educated on
Oh,
that. I
it's a
know it is a
lot to,
huge deal.
well, it's just such a lot to understand and take in that the taxpayers need to know that, they're matching federal monies with every dollar, a parent pays. And also another creepy thing, this is 42 U.S. Code subsection, get this, 666, requirement of statutorily prescribed procedures to improve effectiveness of child support enforcement.
What? I think you need to send me
Yeah.
that.
Okay, so if
Nice.
you're a poor parent like me who's had the silver bullet tactic and now you
Mhm.
can't work, then that that t- that parent comes after you for child support and you can't pay it and then they throw you in jail.
Yes, yes, yeah.
And the 666 really is just it's demonic.
Hilarious and
I
demonic.
know.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is a
Uh,
sad state of affairs.
yes. Yeah. Earlier, when I was talking to you about the Taran Nolan case and her judge, Kimberly Carasso, and me filing a new action and then getting that judge and thinking she recused herself because my name was so prominently spoken across her lips in transcripts, and didn't, and then refused to recuse herself now twice. She issued a DVRO against me in June based off of my articles covering the Tawny Mina Grossman case because she withheld her child, um, as per Penal Code 2787, which allows for a parent to withhold their children to protect them from physical or psychological abuse. And because
Mhm.
I had written articles on that, supposedly they feared that I might abduct my children. That's the grounds that they issued a restraining order against me. How I haven't even seen or spoken to my kids since May of 2023. How insane is that?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not the only parent. I know it happens to a lot of parents.
Right.
And parents will come to me and they're afraid to tell me that they have a DVRO against them, thinking I will think that they're less credible. And I don't. I have to look at the evidence because
Hmm.
I've seen what they do to so many families. In another case, we have a judge who issued $85,000 in sanctions against a mom who makes $3,000 a month, all because she didn't like the way that this mom, who doesn't, English isn't her first language, she didn't like the way that this mom advocated for her rights and her ADA rights to have everything printed. You can have what's being spoken printed on screen in front of you,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you can have an interpreter and some other things. And so, yeah, the judge actually put in writing that she issued $85,000 in sanctions as a modality to curb her from future conduct in the courtroom.
Ah. Was she a pro se?
Yes,
Oh, that's why. Yeah.
yes. But also in California, we have like a 70 something, 100 something page bench guide issued by the Judicial Council back in 2019 that's still in play that they did, research on coming up with the entire bench guide language and directives for judges how to work with pro se litigants because we were having such a higher propensity for pro se litigants because they couldn't afford litigation or whatever reason. And it
Hmm.
was educating judges on how they need to conduct themselves and help pro se litigants because they aren't lawyers,
Hmm.
and help them get to the truth, um, for in the interest of justice is how some of this language is written in the bench guide. And of course, they keep it under lock and key. It's been very hard to get a copy of it. And reading it, it's appalling at how detailed this bench guide is for California judges, and they're not following any of it. And what they are in fact doing is saying, "Oh, well, the Judicial Council says I have to treat you equally to a lawyer."
Hmm.
And they are lying about the
Right.
whole intention of the bench guide, which is you can take extra steps and not create a conflict of interest just to get at the truth in an interest of justice for the best interest of the child. And that is not happening at all.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No, they have to follow that. They have to give more latitude to a pro se litigant because they aren't an attorney. And that was even addressed to me when I was in federal court. The judge acknowledged that, okay, you're a pro se, and I I don't know how he worded it, but it was very professional that they can't treat me like a lawyer or expect that out of me.
Oh, well, that was nice.
That was nice, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I wish he would have read all my evidence. He didn't read anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh. Well, I mean, I have such a respect for the law. I grew up with such a respect for the
I did
law.
too. I
But
did
the people
too.
who are practicing it and interpreting it and, making rulings based off it, I'm so disheartened. Um, and they run and rule the country. And they, I believe, have destroyed families and
Hmm.
children.
Right.
And they should be ashamed of themselves.
Oh, and then some. And with these laws that, they've got laws named after all these poor kids,
I know.
and they're not enforced and or followed anyway. And also a lot of those laws, they're already on the books. They've been on the books for like 40 years. The police aren't trained on these penal codes in the police academy.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I've already talked a lot. I'm sorry. I've
No,
just
you're
kind of
fine.
rambled. I just feel like I've commandeered the interview or
No, that's
podcast.
fine. No, I think that's fine because I had filled out, I'll tell you this story. I filled out an affidavit on something really weird. I won't even go into that, but I had to take it to the police department to show them what was going on. And it was like a family issue. Okay. So it was what I wrote, what happened in this document, an affidavit that I'm showing the police officer, who was super hot, I might add. Okay. He was well built, exactly what you would like, the poster child of a police officer. Anyway, so he's saying, well, ma'am, this is hearsay. I said, no, it's not. Hearsay is when you hear it from John 4 doors down, who heard it from Sally across the street. I'm telling you what happened right now. That's not hearsay. He didn't know that. And I want to teach gracefully and not make them feel less than or stupid. I don't want to do that, but I just said it
Right.
very nicely. And he was, I don't know, are they not teaching them what they need to know?
Well, I think that's another part of it. In the very beginning, they were peacekeepers, right? And
Mhm.
now their job is so much more complex and handling so many different types of crimes and incidents. And if they're going to be involved in anything domestic, tied to domestic relations that touches on domestic violence or child abuse or whatever, they really do need more of an education than just going to cadet school for 6 months.
Hmm.
Um, they should have at least a bachelor's or a master's, maybe a minor in psychology and criminal law. And
Hmm.
um, I mean, it's not like these guys are making 40 or 50 a year. I mean, they're making 250,000 a year typically. And
And that's in California.
yeah, yeah, easy. They're making that.
Wow.
And yeah, they need a bit more education um, to be handling these types of calls.
Mm, hmm.
You know, how to de-escalate, especially if they're coming to a domestic violence or child abuse call. They need education on child abuse and domestic violence and, how to de-escalate, and requires
Right.
more education to identify who's being truthful, who's a victim. And that's another thing I think that the Gabby Petito case showed us, is that victims
Mhm.
don't present the same. There's lots of different ways that victims present. So you really have to be educated on the response. There's a name for it. Um, I forget what it's called, but it's like fawn,
Fawn and freeze.
flight. Yeah, but there's like 8 under that
Oh,
category, as a minimum way that someone might present or respond. That doesn't mean they're guilty. It just means that's how they
yeah.
react to the trauma. And officers are not trained typically to be able to identify or interact with that.
Right. I think what I would have done if I was the cop and saw that scene when they were on the scene, I'd be like, okay, wait, let's just separate these two anyway. Let's put her in a hotel room. She can call her parents and just go back with them. Just totally de-escalate it. I don't know, deal with him. I can't remember what he was up to or if he had hit her. I don't remember.
Yeah, there was something about he was really breaking her down mentally, and then I guess he if I remember correctly, he might have slapped her, and maybe she threw keys at him or something.
Mm,
I'm not really sure. But yeah, that was not handled well. You know, Imagine if there was a mandatory EPO put in place separating them for 7-day period, that might have changed
right.
the outcome, you know? Um, there was a lot to that case.
Hmm.
Misidentifying the victim, um, and just really, again, not being educated to be able to identify who was truly the victim and how serious the situation was.
I just think when they're looking at this person, Gabby, you their job is to protect those who can't protect themselves.
Yeah.
Kind of like Marines, like what they said in A Few Good Men when they were dishonorably discharged, and the other one asked the his other higher up officer, "Why we didn't do anything wrong?" And he said, "Well, we're supposed to protect those that can't protect themselves." And those cops didn't do that.
Yeah.
And a
And they do.
lot of them, yeah, because a lot of them have come out of the military and they take these police officer jobs, right? Am I right? Or
Yeah.
so it just kind of just bothers me that, just do something. Don't just leave the scene and have something
Yeah.
weird happen.
As a matter of fact, the main officer who changed my children's lives for the worse
Mm,
came from the military, um, and then became an officer at Newport Beach Police. And he became involved in our case in 2019, and he just started doing everything to protect and embolden our abuser, our documented abuser. And I suffered more abuse at his hands. It was really traumatic. I had never had an experience like that with an officer. I guess I was lucky
mm,
until dealing with Detective Mike Fletcher. I mean, he would gaslight me, he would shame me, victim blame me,
mhm.
block me from making restraining order violations. And I mean, I'm like
Yeah,
speechless over his dealings to help an abuser. And I don't just mean somebody who slapped. I mean, he choked me. He strangled my son multiple times. He
mhm.
withheld food from my son. And this is the guy who was moved up through the Newport Beach Police Department and is now, I heard, like a sergeant or something. And I've heard from he's been involved in other cases. I wrote on the Joy Houghton Hague case, and he was involved with Tammy Jacobs and Joe Faria from OCDA, and these three, and now Nate Ridlin has joined the group, go and do this kind of stuff to protect parents and help facilitate the court to flip custody and make this false narrative. And it's what you're saying, like, they come from the military and they go into cadet school and become an officer, and they don't have the education to deal with something so complex and delicate as child safety, domestic violence, and child abuse.
Hmm. Hmm.
Can they go tackle a bad guy who's robbed something? Can they investigate stuff? Sure, but not in those three areas. And they're causing
Right,
tremendous harm.
right. They'll take a court order and then, like in my case, when the kids were being withheld from me, and they were supposed to, I was supposed to see these kids on like Wednesdays and Friday, whatever. And I'd go to the ex's house, the lights are on, no one's home. So I'd go right to the state police. Here's the court order. Where are the kids? So then they would call the DA on call, who would say, well, we can't do anything because they're in family court. So there's nothing we can do. They have to take it back to family court.
No, that's not
I know.
true.
I
It's not
know.
true at all. But that is
Ugh.
exactly what they're doing everywhere. And shame on them.
Right, right. They have got to look at the court order and say to the DA, here's, I'll fax it to you. Look at this court order. I've got to go get these kids. Blah, blah, blah. I don't
Well,
know
and
why.
that is the typical response and involvement with the DA and the police in these cases that involve domestic violence, child abuse, and or just contested cases. I don't like
Hmm.
saying high conflict because it
No,
it like imparts blame. These are contested cases, and typically one side there's abuse coming from one side. It's not, but
right,
they try to frame it like it's both or it's the other person who's doing it, and that's not the case.
right.
Um, but in my case in particular, the DA got very involved with Detective Mike Fletcher from Newport Beach Police, and so much so that his boss, Sergeant Depwig, sent out an email to it was titled "All Staff, All Newport Beach Staff," and another officer read this to me, printed out the email. I came to make a restraining order violation. This was in I think December of 2020. I forget exactly, but I have it. I have it all. But
Hmm.
yeah, this officer printed out the all staff email informing all of Newport Beach Police that they were no longer to take any more restraining order violations from me unless my ex-husband explicitly threatened to take my life. And that was the directive from the Orange County District Attorney's Office. And it was all written in an email and sent out to all the staff. So I couldn't get anybody to write restraining order violations anymore. And do you know how many things fall under that specific category that are violations of a restraining order? Like a lot.
Hmm.
Stalking, asking for your location, trying to find your location, following you, trying to connect with you on LinkedIn, trying to connect with you on Facebook, sending other people to, follow you, contact you in public, call you, um, just very
Hmm.
derogatory, volatile language.
Hmm.
Sometimes I would get 40 messages through Talking Parents in a day, 40, sometimes 50. Yeah, none of that. They would refuse to take, or at exchanges, he would walk over to my car and take a picture of my driver's license. Yeah. And so that's happening to a lot
Oh,
of people.
yeah. Yeah. My mom used to volunteer at a DV shelter, and she said they're not doing anything until there's some real damage done. And I
Yeah.
was only like maybe, I don't know, 14 at the time. I'm like, oh man, they just they have to wait for something really bad to happen, and then they'll follow the law, I guess, right?
Who, the perpetrator or the
The
police or the
police.
people who are supposed to enforce the law?
Yeah, right.
All
Yeah,
of them? Yeah, I mean, I think that's why mine ex escalated to the degree that he did because he was never held accountable, ever.
right.
Ever.
Same. Yeah.
The strongest form of accountability he was subject to was that I had sole legal and physical custody and a renewed restraining order. Never, I think, because of the amount of child support he owed, they pulled his passport, and they pulled his driver's license, but he circumvented that by getting a driver's license out of Arizona.
Mm,
So he was living here, he's still living here, and he used an Arizona driver's license. But yeah, he never suffered, any
no
consequences
consequences.
or
Mm-mm.
accountability. Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, very destructive. It's just, I talk to so many parents that there has been no justice. And when they have had no justice, they're just, it, it just rips everybody apart
Yeah.
inside,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Well, and to that, so now we know about this. We have all these walking wounded parents and children walking because they've been so traumatized over and over and over by the family court system,
Hmm.
by the police, by the CPS, even some of their own doctors who are afraid to go and speak in court, you know, because they're afraid of the ramifications. And then we have people in the advocacy space who are also taking advantage of these parents who are
Hmm.
begging for anybody to listen to them and help.
Hmm.
And that's disturbing. You and I are both aware of, the fly by night advocacy groups
Hmm.
and, the ones that are purporting all these amazing things and turns out nothing remotely even close to what they're purporting or promising. And that just causes more harm to these parents and
Right.
children. And
Yeah, you got to be careful who you're talking to out there.
who you're
Mhm.
sharing case specific stuff with, because there's people who sell you a bill of goods and promises and don't deliver. You spend money to go support this group and it's not anything like what it's saying it's doing, or you get close, somebody gets close to you and gets information and then they basically leak it to the other side. And, there's just
Mhm.
super disturbing.
Hmm. Yeah, I just all these things the public needs to be aware of. We're not giving legal advice because neither you or I are an attorney or a doctor,
Correct.
but in
No legal
court,
advice. Just
right? But
speaking of experience.
speaking from a lot of experience, however, a judge can suddenly become a medical doctor and call someone crazy, or an attorney can suddenly call someone crazy. And where did they get their
Or
medical
a
degree?
parental alienator, which is a label that's not even legal. It's nothing. It's some coined term by some really disturbing doctor. I mean, Dr. Gardner, I don't even know if you could call him a doctor. He was just ugh. But yeah,
And it really is that that term is actually child psychological abuze, which is in the
yes,
DSM-5,
yes.
V995.51 that Dr. Childress, thank God, written up. So we technically should be using the term child psychological abuze. That way it can be prosecuted as physical or SA abuze.
But they don't want to do that because if they do that, then it encompasses all the psychological abuse happening because we know that there's all kinds of psychological abuse happening and they don't want to bring that in because that opens the door to not just um, you know like a indoctrination campaign or a propaganda campaign or constant toxic negative verbal communication to the child about the other parent,
Uh-huh.
or all in that category is also threats of harm,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, threats of withdrawing love,
Hmm.
and all the other types of psychological abuse.
Yeah.
And so if they left it at using the proper term, all
Mm-hmm.
those other things come into play. They don't want to do that.
It's got to change. I'm hoping for change. We're going to be rolling into 2026, and I really hope I see something good happen. Yeah.
And I want to say, like, I'm really glad you brought up psychological abuse because it is happening. And parents do say negative, toxic things to the children, and some children succumb to it. And
Mm-hmm.
that is a form of alienating. But I want to say this also, that stuff happens in intact marriages. That
Yes.
stuff happens in broken families and extended family members. I mean, look at all our TV shows. They're about family dynamics, and family
Right.
dynamics are complicated, and whew, some of them are really bad. And
Yes.
it's exacerbated and used in a way to target the safe parent in family court.
Mhm.
Um, so that's another issue right there that the courts are failing to identify. Um,
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because these behaviors of withholding the child, well, again, we go back to evidence, right? Are they going to look at the evidence that, okay, so John is withholding the child or Sally's withholding the child? Okay, so we got the evidence that, okay, here's like
but
police.
why? But why? Is it a
Mhm.
legitimate reason or not? Is it like, is it malicious, or is it like the person genuinely fears for the child's safety? I mean, there's all these things to consider, and they're not
Right.
doing that.
Uh, and it goes back to this evidence because I had a parent on where she had video footage of the other parent smoking um, marijuana in the car with the kid in the car seat, right? Isn't that enough? If that isn't enough evidence to just reverse
Yeah,
custody, I don't know what is.
right.
But
Yeah,
anyway, the judge kept it with that other abusive parent.
that's
I give up.
wild. I mean, the person's like either about to drive the car, in the middle of driving the car, and smoking a substance that, you know, inebriate causes them to be inebriated or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, that's really dangerous. That's, I mean, how is that any different than driving drunk with your kid in the car?
A judge didn't care.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I know I don't want everyone to hate me, but I just don't think it's a safe place to bring a baby into the world. Had I known all of this weird stuff was going to happen, and through this child psychological abuze, that these kids would change and they would turn these kids against me.
I know, but Dr. Cocciola talks about this and several other decent psychologists and psychiatrists. Um, when children are bombarded, some acquiesce to that thinking, that
Mhm.
mindset, and others reject it for whatever reason. They have stronger mental ability or Teflon, I don't know.
Right.
But children do lash out at the safe parent that they know they can. I'm not
Hmm.
saying that's right, but that is something that is been researched and discussed
Right.
by people like Dr. Cocciola and other
Mhm.
psychologists. So and I have a child who's done that to me.
Mhm.
And it's so hard. It's so heartbreaking. But then when you understand that it was, they had to, for survival, adopt that mentality,
That's what it is. Yes.
and then to continue to show that to keep their own safety, they have to outwardly show disrespect and disdain for you.
Hmm. That's very true.
Yeah.
It's a real mind, you know,
Yes.
F word. So,
Yes. Yes.
you
I do.
know, and I'm glad you came on to have these conversations that the
Thank you for letting
tax
me talk so much.
no, that's what we do, you know. We talk so the taxpayer can be aware of what's really going on and how their
Yeah.
money's where it's really going. So, is there anything else you'd like to add that we didn't cover?
I just really think that people need to wake up and they need to get involved and they need to show up in numbers to court watch, to support their family and friends, because what is going on across America is rampant. It's everywhere, and I absolutely believe it is a big part of what has destroyed America, the children and the families,
Mm-hmm.
and the lawyers who become judges and the DA, the people who become DAs and cops and become judges, they should be ashamed of themselves and
Hmm.
they need to correct uh, their wrongs right now.
Right. I agree, and I live to see that day.
It can
But
happen.
yeah, it can, you know. We just have to work together as parents and pull together and support each other.
Yes.
And court watch, court watch,
Uh,
court watch.
Yeah. And people need to know this is not a he said, she said. This is legitimate fraud,
Hmm.
perjury, suppression of evidence,
Yes,
and real destruction of people and children's lives.
right. And going back to the evidence thing, and then I'll let you go. But even these clerks can withhold evidence from the judge, and
Oh,
the judge
yeah.
doesn't know it.
Okay. Let's take 2 minutes for this or whatever we have.
Okay.
There is a thing here in Orange County where pro pers were filing online, and their pro pers filing documents were either being wrongfully kicked back or left in a queue unattended for like weeks at a time. But even the other party, who may have also been pro per but was the preferred parent, would get their filings in like 24 hours.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Crazy. And yes,
Hmm.
and I've witnessed court filing clerks be outrageously unprofessional with parties in a case.
Hmm. Hmm. Most definitely, people don't know this until they go through it.
Yeah.
Now, how can people reach you if they have a question? I can't imagine how many people you're talking to.
Oh. Um, Thanks. I'm on Substack. It's called Unveiled and Uncensored, and it's under my name, Julie M. Anderson Holburn. I'm also on Instagram. At the end of every one of my articles is my email. I prefer that people email me, but I understand, people message me on Instagram as well. And my articles are set to free. You can do a free subscription because I think that's part of what's been a problem is the paywall.
Hmm.
Parents didn't know what was going on, and now they do. More of us don't have a paywall.
Hmm.
Of course, they can do a paid membership subscription, which is very helpful because this is my
Yes.
livelihood. And I do this not for the money. I do this, I don't even make enough to feed and clothe myself, but I do
Mm.
this to make a change because it is long overdue. And
Right.
I'm committed to helping make that a reality soon. So
You're a
on
hero.
Substack, Julie M. Anderson Holburn, Unveiled and Uncensored. On Instagram under my name.
Okay, I'll put that in the podcast notes. I'm
Okay.
so glad we talked because this was good to air out. So
Yeah.
hey, don't jump off. Oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
don't jump off.
Don't jump off. Slam the
Okay.
Gavel's a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Maryann Petri. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms even I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep these podcasts going. Thank you, Julie Holburn. I appreciate you and all your
Thank
work.
you, Marianne. I really appreciate you and all your work.
Thank you.